Look carefully at the wealthy. Notice their performance. They slip into cheap shirts not because they cannot afford silk, but because they understand the weapon of disguise. They step into modest cafes, not because they lack palaces, but because appearing ordinary disarms suspicion. Their voices soften in crowded rooms, not because they fear being ignored, but because they already command attention without needing to shout. And here lies the paradox. What you mistake for virtue, Machiavelli would call a stratagem. What looks like humility is, in truth, protection. The rich learn early that to preserve power, it must often be hidden. Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand, Machiavelli warned in The Prince. People do not see your intentions, they see your signals. And so, elites wrap themselves in modesty, the way a general might wrap his camp in darkness, camouflage to mask their strength. But here is where the trap snaps shut. When the poor adopt this same performance, it does not shield them, it erases them. To look poor without power is to vanish from the social stage entirely. The world does not see a disguise, it sees truth. And once it concludes you are powerless, you will be treated as if you are nothing at all. You have seen this play out. A man walks into a meeting with an outdated suit. His mind sharp, his ideas revolutionary, yet no one listens. The wrinkles on his sleeves, the wear on his shoes, the absence of polish on his watch, all speak louder than his words. They whisper, "This man has no leverage," and so he is dismissed before he even speaks. Consider the woman on a corner, her voice burning with conviction. Her message may be true, but her appearance betrays her. Clothes that hang loose, posture uncertain. Instead of reverence, she is mocked. Not because her logic is unsound, but because her image signals weakness. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more by appearances than by reality, and here is the proof. A message can die, not because it is false, but because its messenger looked unworthy. Even in labor you see this law. A worker in a factory solves problems faster than his manager, yet he remains unnoticed. His hands are stained, his shirt marked with sweat. His brilliance is buried under the appearance of toil. In a world governed by symbols, he does not look like command. He looks like servitude. And so his power is ignored. This is the cold cruelty of perception. Power must not only be earned, it must be performed. And those who fail to perform it are condemned to invisibility. The elites understand this better than anyone. Once wealth is secured, once networks and influence are firmly established, they can afford to step back into the cloak of modesty. They know they cannot be erased. For their power has already been engraved into the order of things. They can walk in sandals and be seen as wise. Meanwhile, a poor man in sandals is judged as lazy. The same action, two opposite meanings, because context, not act, decides everything. History offers examples in abundance. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, was praised for walking in plain wool. His restraint was celebrated because behind that wool trailed armies, treasuries, spies, and allies. His cloak was not humility, it was theater. It projected closeness to the people, while hiding the invisible machinery of dominance. Compare that with the nameless farmer who wore the same cloak. No applause, no reverence, only indifference. For the servant, simplicity is expectation. For the sovereign, it is grace. The same principle echoes today. Steve Jobs wore the black turtleneck, not because it was his only garment, but because it signaled focus, monastic discipline, obsessive dedication to vision. Zuckerberg repeats his grey shirts as a mask of neutrality, a uniform that lowers defenses while his empire expands. Warren Buffett still lives in a modest home. People marvel at his simplicity, but it is not simplicity, it is myth-making. His restraint is respected precisely because it is optional. Now ask yourself, what happens when you copy these displays before you have conquered anything? When you wear invisibility without ever having been noticed? When you perform humility without power to make it a choice, you are not praised, you are ignored, You are not admired, you are forgotten. The cloak that protects the prince suffocates the peasant. Machiavelli cautioned that a prince who relies on appearances alone will soon find himself despised. Yet he also knew appearances could not be ignored. They must be wielded, not surrendered. For those with power, humility can magnify respect. For those without, humility is a noose. And here is the truth few dare speak aloud. The world has no patience for those who look powerless. People may nod politely, but beneath the surface, they judge swiftly. They place you into categories before your first word, valuable or disposable, threat or background noise, commanding or irrelevant. And once the judgment is made, it hardens like stone. The elites know this. That is why their humility is staged, their invisibility strategic. They use it to lower envy, to study the crowd unseen, to slip past rivals while plotting new moves. It is a chess piece, carefully positioned. But for those at the bottom, humility is not a move. It is surrender. It whispers, I have no weapons. I am no threat. Pass over me. And so the world does. This is why you must understand the difference between humility as a calculated display and humility as a condition. One commands respect. The other erases existence. The rich wear old clothes because they can afford to reveal their power in other ways. The poor wear old clothes because they believe modesty itself will be rewarded. One is strategy, the other is submission. And submission, in the theater of power, is never applauded. So the next time you see the billionaire in sandals or the monarch in plain robes, remember this. What you are witnessing is not humility. It is a mask, a costume, a carefully sharpened blade, hidden in a scabbard of simplicity. The danger lies not in what the elites perform, but in what you have been trained to copy. You have been told modesty is noble, that blending in will keep you safe, that silence and restraint will one day be rewarded. But what if this is the very lie designed to keep you where you are? What if humility preached to the masses is nothing more than a leash, a way to chain the ambitious before they ever rise? And if that is true, then the real question becomes, who benefits from teaching you that disappearing is a virtue? Consider this. Who told you that modesty was virtue? Who told you to shrink, to lower your gaze, to walk softly until others deemed you worthy of notice? The poor are taught from birth that humility is noble, that blending into the crowd is safety. Yet Machiavelli warned, a prince who is not himself wise cannot be well advised. To follow such counsel blindly is not virtue. It is weakness imposed by those who gain from your silence. Think about it. If the powerful convinced you to hide your light, to mute your presence, to signal nothing, who profits? Certainly not you, for the world is too fast, too ruthless, to stop and search for invisible men. The gain belongs to those already visible, those who thrive while you remain unseen. Every day, society scans you with ruthless efficiency. Without a word, eyes measure the cut of your suit, the sharpness of your posture, the firmness of your step. In a split second, you are sorted, leader or follower, threat or harmless, useful or disposable. Machiavelli observed that men in general judge more by the eye, and here lies its cruelty. Your essence may be brilliant, your heart noble, but if your signals betray weakness, no one will pause to discover the truth beneath. Consider the job candidate who arrives in casual clothes, believing talent will speak louder than image. He is judged as unserious before his mouth opens. Or the worker who knows the system better than his boss, yet goes ignored because his hands are stained and his shirt untidy. Their silence and plainness do not reveal competence. They mask it, bury it, make it invisible. History is full of dynasties who understood this law. The Medici did not rise to power by accident. They cloaked their banking empire in discretion, often appearing as servants to kings, while quietly financing wars, popes, and palaces. Their wealth spoke even when their clothes did not. But notice the order. They built immense leverage first. Only then could they afford to vanish behind simple appearances. The ordinary man who copies this sequence in reverse, hiding before he has anything to hide, finds himself erased. His invisibility is not camouflage, it is disappearance, and disappearance in the jungle of human ambition is equivalent to death. The emotional cost of this trap is devastating. Imagine spending years working diligently, believing that patience and humility will one day be noticed. Yet the world is not watching. It has already passed judgment. You were categorized the moment you entered the room, and when decisions are made, who to promote, who to invite, who to follow, you are not even considered. You become background noise, the kind of man Machiavelli said rulers never fear, because he poses no threat. That is why invisibility is not neutral. It is fatal. A silent man without power is not respected for restraint. He is overlooked as irrelevant. A woman who lowers her voice is not admired for modesty. She is ignored as unworthy of attention. The queen walking barefoot is called graceful. The servant barefoot is simply invisible. The same act, two meanings. Context, not action, defines value. And here lies the Machiavellian trap. The elites know this distinction. That is why they promote modesty in public sermons, preach frugality in interviews, and praise humility as a virtue for all. But in their private world, they wield visibility like a sword. They announce themselves when deals must be closed. They project command when negotiations unfold. They use networks, reputation, and posture to crush rivals. Only after the conquest do they return to silence, to the performance of simplicity that fools the masses into copying them too soon. This is why Machiavelli cautioned rulers never to let their enemies read their true strength. Humility is camouflage when armies already stand behind you. But when you are still unarmed, silence does not protect, it condemns. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have already passed you by because you thought humility would speak for you? How many doors remained closed, not because you lacked ability, but because you did not signal value when it mattered most? The world rarely revisits its judgment. Once you are placed in the category of the irrelevant, it is nearly impossible to climb out. Weakness, like power, sticks. You can see it even now in modern elites. A CEO in a plain hoodie is celebrated as authentic because the hoodie conceals an empire. But a young man in the same hoodie at a meeting is dismissed as careless. A billionaire's silence is taken as depth. Your silence is taken as fear. One man's restraint signals strength, another's signals surrender. And the line between the two is drawn not by action, but by power. So when you adopt invisibility without foundation, you are not hiding. You are training others to forget you. Every day you play small, you reinforce the perception that you do not matter. And once that perception calcifies, every word you speak sounds lighter. Every move you make feels less consequential. You are ignored, not because you lack brilliance, but because you failed to broadcast it before judgment was made. This is why elites encourage you to stay humble. It is not advice, it is containment. By teaching you to embrace invisibility, they secure their dominance. They do not fear the loud poor man, he at least signals ambition. They fear the one who learns to wield presence early, who signals inevitability before wealth arrives. That man is dangerous, for he understands that humility is a weapon reserved only for those who already command armies behind the curtain. And this brings us to the next truth. If invisibility destroys those without power, what then is the true function of simplicity among elites? Why do emperors wear plain cloaks, billionaires wear t-shirts, and kings choose silence over noise? The answer reveals not humility, but strategy, the calculated weaponization of modesty to control envy, perception, and attention. But before we uncover how they wield simplicity as a weapon, you must first grasp why it is fatal to wield it too soon. Now we arrive at the hidden edge of the blade. The powerful do not wear simplicity because they are saints. They wear it because it disarms their enemies. Machiavelli wrote that The vulgar are always taken by appearances, and the world is composed of the vulgar. Appearances are the battlefield. Simplicity, when chosen after victory, becomes the most deceptive weapon of all. Look closely at the way elites manipulate envy. They know envy is dangerous. It sharpens rivals, breeds hostility, ignites rebellion. But rather than deny it, they redirect it. A billionaire arrives in sandals and a worn hoodie, and the crowd calls him authentic, eccentric, wise. The press labels him a genius. The boardroom praises his grounded charm. But let a job applicant wear the same sandals, the same hoodie, and he is dismissed as lazy, unprepared, unserious. One man's rebellion is another man's rejection. The difference is not clothing, it is context. Royalty has practiced this art for centuries. Kings no longer wear crowns of gold in public. They arrive in dark cars, subdued suits, rehearsed words, and discreet jewels. Their restraint is not humility, it is curation. They know that raw displays of wealth provoke resentment, but understated elegance creates mystique. A whisper of untouchable control. The king who roars is feared. The king who whispers is terrifying. For you cannot see his moves, only the effects of his invisible hand. The battlefield of war teaches the same principle. Generals do not wear medals on the front line. They wear camouflage. The uniform is not humility. It is survival, deception, and strategy. The most dangerous man is not the one who shouts his status, but the one who blends into the terrain while commanding forces that remain unseen. Simplicity here is not a virtue. It is a mask for domination. Modern elites have mastered this theater. Zuckerberg hides behind grey shirts. Steve Jobs reduced his image to a turtleneck. Warren Buffett preaches frugality from a modest home. These are not accidents. They are performances designed to project discipline while concealing the machinery of influence beneath. They create an illusion that says, "I do not need to prove anything." And the masses swallow it whole, thinking restraint is the cause of their rise, when in truth it is the camouflage that protects it. But note the sequence. First, they conquered. Then they hid. They built networks, amassed capital, secured dominance, and only after victory did they step into simplicity. For them, invisibility magnifies power. For you, invisibility erases it. That is the line that separates camouflage from suicide. This is the Machiavellian paradox. The same act carries two opposite meanings. Humility with power is strength. Humility without power is weakness. Silence from the throne is wisdom. Silence from the crowd is irrelevance. That is why the elites glorify humility in their speeches and biographies. They know it traps the ambitious poor in invisibility, while their own humility is a performance sharpened by power. The crowd, of course, admires the disguise. They see a monarch walking barefoot and call it grace. They see a billionaire in a hoodie and call it genius. Yet deep down, they know he is not like them. They know his simplicity masks wealth beyond imagination. And that tension, appearing the same while being vastly different, is the heart of influence. It is the paradox that binds admiration to envy. Think of how influencers flaunt their restraint today. They post minimalism videos filmed inside mansions. They preach staying grounded while surrounded by empires. They let the crowd believe that humility led to their wealth. But this is illusion crafted to pacify. The poor man who imitates the act is not seen as disciplined. He is invisible. The rich man who imitates it is praised because his power is already proven. Same mask, different meaning. This is why Machiavelli insisted that rulers must never appear weak. They may appear merciful, faithful, humane, even humble, but only if those appearances conceal a core of steel. Appearance must serve power, not replace it. The prince who confuses the costume for the substance is soon destroyed. Ask yourself this: have you been fooled into mistaking the cloak for the fortress? Have you believed that silence itself will make you strong? That simplicity will bring you respect? That humility will secure your place? If so, you have swallowed the oldest trap in politics and wealth, The trap of believing that invisibility is protection, when in truth it is erasure. The truth is harsh. You cannot afford invisibility until you are unforgettable. You cannot afford modesty until your presence is undeniable. Until then, simplicity is not camouflage. It is surrender. And so the question becomes, if invisibility destroys the powerless but protects the powerful, what must the ambitious man do while still climbing? How can he command attention, build presence, and project inevitability even before wealth and networks exist? The answer lies in mastering the counter-strategy of presence. If humility without power erases you, then the counter-strategy is clear. Before you have riches, you must master presence. Machiavelli advised rulers to appear merciful, faithful, humane, and religious, not because he believed men should always be these things, but because appearance is the currency that buys obedience. Presence is not built on truth. It is built on perception, and perception, once repeated, becomes reputation, and reputation becomes reality. You don't need millions to begin this work. You need signal. Posture is the first weapon. When you enter a room, your body speaks before your mouth does. A rushed step, fidgeting hands, apologetic shoulders. These are silent confessions of weakness. Enter slowly, hold your ground. Let silence stretch longer than the average man can endure. The tension you create becomes its own kind of power. Weak men fill space with noise. Strong men let space bend around them. Next, your eyes. In Machiavelli's time, a prince's gaze could secure loyalty or provoke fear without words. Today, eye contact remains one of the cheapest yet most commanding tools. Meet eyes directly, not aggressively, but with the calm of someone who has already decided his path. A steady gaze unsettles because it implies certainty. People do not follow the man who explains endlessly. They follow the man who moves as if explanation is unnecessary. Then your clothing. This is not about buying luxury. It is about discipline. Fit over flash, order over chaos, clean shoes, sharp lines, neutral tones. When the cut is precise and the detail intentional, you broadcast mastery of yourself. And as Machiavelli wrote, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. In the same way, the first method people use to judge you is to look at what surrounds you, your clothing, your grooming, your signals. Your words must be chosen like blades. Do not spill every thought. Do not explain unless strategic. Mystery is leverage. The less you reveal, the more others fill the silence with projections of strength. Speak slowly, with weight, then stop. Let your words hang in the air. Others will rush to fill the gap. That is when you learn what they truly think. Energy is the final signal. People sense it before they register it. Are you rushed, anxious, apologetic, or grounded, still, unshakable? People are drawn not to credentials but to conviction. Even if conviction is an illusion, it commands respect. Caesar did not wait until Rome begged him to cross the Rubicon. He walked with inevitability, and the world bent around his stride. The appearance of inevitability is often indistinguishable from inevitability itself. This is how you turn invisibility into intimidation. You forecast your future self. You carry yourself as if your success already exists, and the world, confused but captivated, begins to treat you as if it does. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote that fortune favors the bold. Fortune does not wait for explanations. It responds to signals of certainty. Think about modern examples. Elon Musk can appear in plain clothes, and yet his presence dominates because his reputation precedes him. It is not the shirt. It is the aura of inevitability he projects. The lesson is not to mimic his simplicity. The lesson is to cultivate an energy that commands even before the shirt is noticed. And here is the brutal truth. Weakness, once displayed, clings like a stain. If you present yourself as invisible now, it will be remembered long after you decide to reveal yourself. Doors will have closed, reputations will have hardened, opportunities will have passed. That is why you must never pretend to be poor, never signal irrelevance, never disguise yourself before you have conquered. Because perception, once set, rarely resets. So you must ask yourself, are you silent because you choose to be, or because you fear to be heard? Are you humble because you command the option, or because you fear the cost of being visible? Machiavelli warned that men who rely on others for power are always weak. If your humility depends on others noticing you anyway, you have already surrendered your fate. The alternative is to claim visibility, to walk as though your name matters, even before it does, to build presence until indifference is impossible, to make envy your shadow, for envy at least ensures you are seen. Hatred remembers your name, indifference forgets it, and forgetfulness is the death of ambition. From this moment forward, understand the law. Humility without power is suicide. Visibility without wealth is survival. Presence is your weapon until fortune crowns you. Only then, when your foundation is undeniable, when your networks and victories secure your place, may you choose to disappear. Only then can humility protect you. Until then, invisibility is not safety, it is death. So do not shrink. Do not camouflage yourself for the comfort of others. Do not pretend to be less in the hope that the world will one day discover more. That day never comes. You must signal it now, broadcast it now, wear it now. You must become your future self before the world believes it. That is how power is born, not from waiting, but from appearing inevitable. If you've listened this far, it means you already feel the weight of this truth. You know invisibility has cost you. You know silence has erased you. And you know that every day you wait, someone else louder, bolder, more visible, takes what might have been yours. So let me leave you with a question Machiavelli himself might ask. Are you willing to pay the price of being envied, doubted, even resisted in order to be seen? Or will you continue to pay the higher price of being ignored? If this struck something inside you, declare it in the comments. I will never hide my power again. Let it be a pledge, not to me, but to yourself. For the world cannot reward what it does not notice, and from this day forward, you can no longer afford to be unseen.